What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Footy with an Edge. We're here today with a brand new podcast for you guys to enjoy. And I have a very, very special co-host to introduce to you guys for the very first time on this channel. And it's a name that you've probably seen plenty of times in the comments without knowing that we're actually related. And I don't know how you feel about that. I know how I feel about that. It's great for me to have this person in my life. And that is none other than my brother, Rishi. Rishi, welcome to the channel. I know you've been here before, but maybe people don't know about it. We've had a tumultuous, let's say, history in terms of how the channel has gone because people don't know this, but me and Rishi actually started the channel together back in 2021. And it's been a long time coming that I actually have him officially back on the channel. But what a journey it's been. Rishi, go on, introduce yourself, convince people that we're actually related if you guys can't tell already with our faces.
Hi everyone, I'm Rishi, been a United fan since 2003. Uh, been following this team through the depths of darkness, seen the highs, been very fortunate in that regard. Now suffering through the lows along with all of you. And just, sometimes I wonder where we would be without United, probably in a better place. But these are the way the chips fell, and we ended up being United fans instead of glory hunters like Chelsea or City fans or PSG fans. So this is our lot, and just couldn't be happier to be part of a community like Footy with an Edge.
Yeah, that's awesome. And in case you guys are wondering, we actually started this channel in 2021, and part of the reason was that we were sick of the armchair analysts on YouTube, the fan channels that would just come out and say, oh, he was crap, or oh, he was good, oh, sell the whole team or give the whole team Ballon d'Ors. And there was a lack of substance behind the comments, right? It wasn't really analysis. It was just kind of the eye test that was telling us what was happening or what wasn't happening. And this is, I guess, the head of this snake is Mark Goldbridge, right? In many ways, because he's shitting on players when they're not doing well. He's saying, "Oh, we're not tracking midfield runners," but there's nothing happening beyond that, right? And whether that's because he doesn't know better than that, or because that's the level of analysis he wants to give on his channels, that's up to him. But as content consumers, we were pretty fed up, and we used to talk about United games for hours after they happened, where we would go deep into every player and we would talk to each other on WhatsApp. For those of you guys that don't know, Rishi's actually in Mumbai, India, and I am actually in Toronto, Canada. So we've been sharing our love of this club internationally for the last 13 years at least, because I've been away from him for that long. And we just felt like we could do better. And I feel like most of you that are watching this show probably also feel like that many times, right? Where you think, oh, I can do better than that. Like I have better takes than that. So that's what we actually thought of, and we started this channel. But because of the sort of long distance nature of where we are and the time zones, he's actually 9.5 hours ahead of me in terms of time. So it's daylight for me and it's nighttime for him. And so because of those difficulties, we never managed to kick it off with the two of us doing content like continuously. And then in December of 2022, when the World Cup came around, I took it upon myself to say, you know what, let's start analyzing some games in this World Cup. And yeah, things just kicked off from there. And it just ended up becoming a thing that I took over the channel and made it my own. But I still very much feel like the channel belongs to both of us. Channel belongs to all of you because we've built this community together. And I really have Rishi to thank for a lot of it, because even though he hasn't been on the channel, he hasn't created the content itself, he always gives me great insight into what's happening in the games. I usually always talk to him both during the games and after the games as well, whenever we have some points to exchange. And he's definitely more of a Liverpool hater than I am. So that's something that might excite some of you guys that are out there.
If you had seen Steven Gerrard blow wet kisses at the cameras at Old Trafford in 2009, you would have been just as much of a Liverpool hater as I am. If you had
Yeah.
seen Suarez bite people and then the rest of his team back him up in training the day after that, you would have been just as much of a Liverpool hater as I am. So, there's still time
Well,
left. Liverpool are still Liverpool, so you might reach my level of hatred.
Well, let's not forget the smoke that people blow up Cardi B's skirt, calling him the best center back, the greatest center back of all time. So I feel like I'm getting there, Rishi. But the problem is that everything that's happening now is still adding to your hatred, while it's also adding to mine. So you still have a head start, right? And I feel like I need maybe you step away because United are shit for so long and you're
Yeah.
just like I'm done with this, I'm gonna go follow another sport. That's the only chance I have of maybe catching up with you. But quick tidbit actually. Rishi came up with the name Footy With An Edge. I actually wanted to call the show call the channel Stat Patters FC, and funnily enough, in a full circle moment, this podcast is called Stat Patters, the Stat Patters podcast, because he got to name the channel, I get to name the podcast. And so we're here. This is going to be a weekly podcast format where our goal is to basically, have a few recurring segments where we talk to you about the most interesting topics throughout the week. It's obviously going to be a very much Man United, focused podcast because we don't really have a life, guys. This is all we talk about. It's Manchester United, and so we're really excited to give you some, interesting tidbits that maybe you haven't seen. And then our goal is to end with a segment that focuses on maybe the underrated XI of the week. So obviously, with given the international break that's going on, we're going to discuss that. The best players we've seen on international break. The main topic for today is the explosive athletic article that came out, which talked about which asked basically the agents what they think are the best and worst transfers of this transfer window. And it has had Twitter blowing up. It has had all the athletic journalists getting a lot of flack, especially the United ones, even though it's not them who's saying that these players are good or bad. It's actually the agents, and it's just an article posted by the Athletic. So people are, I feel like, not really
Yeah.
understanding what's
You
going on
know,
here.
side note to the Athletic, if Andy Mitten, literally the nicest guy covering United, is getting flack for your article, you guys have messed up big time.
I also feel like it's a little bit of misunderstanding from everybody because the problem is that it's an article posted by Athletic. It doesn't necessarily mean that the Athletic, like Andy Mitten, Carl Anka, these guys aren't going out there and actually saying that these are the worst transfers or best transfers. This is a survey they've done of the, I think, top 20 agents or 20 agents. I don't really know how they selected. And those guys have come out and said that, Šeško, 6 of them picked Šeško as the worst transfer of the summer window. And I think 5 of them picked Donnarumma as the best transfer of the transfer window that just finished. So I think it's interesting and definitely thought provoking, as we've seen from all the tweets and everything that we've seen. Even True Geordie has come out and said, that's crap. There's no way that Šeško is the worst transfer. But I don't think they realize exactly what's going on. Regardless, I think it's a very interesting talking point that we should definitely discuss in detail. So Rishi, your initial thoughts about this article?
Yeah, so just the randomness of this whole, the nature of this, uh, first of all, why is Sesko number one? Why is he getting more flack than anyone else when there are so many terrible deals that have been made, right? Uh, just top of my mind, I think Elanga 55 million to Newcastle. He's not even got off the mark yet, and he's got one vote, I think, maybe. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and Shesko has actually started getting into gear. He scored goals in his last 2 games. So why is he so disliked? Like, I don't understand the arbitrary nature of the voting, right? Even if I'm an agent and I'm giving an agent's perspective, what are the parameters that I can uh, evaluate this transfer on? Like the transfer fee, the first one, surely not the highest fee that has been paid. Ekitike was more expensive, right? Walter
Yeah.
was pretty much in the same ballpark as Sheshko, right? And that was, in fact, a transfer that even happened literally in the last week of the transfer window. So it's not even a well-planned transfer. Like at least Isaac, you can say that the conversation's been happening, for 6 or 7 weeks before even the transfer window began. So Walter was like sixth or seventh on the list for Newcastle, and he happened at the last moment. uh, he's not a big talent like Haaland is, but they paid big money for him, right? And until the season before last, he was playing in the second division, if I'm not wrong. Or maybe a couple of years back, he was still playing in the second division. I personally don't have any enmity towards any of these players because even though Ekitike is a Liverpool player, let's not forget United were in for him, and I think he's a pretty good player, right? But
Yeah.
how do you decide that he's a better transfer than Sheshko when they've each had just 10 games to prove themselves?
Yeah, and just quickly, you said a lot of interesting stuff there. And remind me to talk about Nick Voltemata because I think that's one of the biggest mysteries for me. How that one hasn't gotten more flack. But speaking about Ekitike, right? Ekitike came out as this like amazing future star. They touted him almost to be like the next Mbappe, right? When PSG bought him because they bought him when he was 18. And I feel like he didn't quite hit the mark at PSG for a couple of seasons, and then he moved on to Frankfurt. And what he had one good season at Frankfurt before he moved on to Liverpool, right, for big money.
Season and a half. Let's
Yeah,
let's call it season and a half.
season and a half. Season and a half. But my point is that if you're saying Sheshko is by far the worst transfer of the summer before he's kicked a ball, right? Because this voting was taken, I think, around when the transfer window ended, and it was just posted now. I believe that's how it went. And this is something that the Athletic does every season, right? So obviously there's some wild takes if you go back to the previous ones. But what I fail to understand is Sheshko was a wonder kid that came from the Austrian Leipzig, right, and moved to the
Salzburg, RB Salzburg.
yeah, and they went from Salzburg to Leipzig, and we have been tracking this guy for a few years now, right, as like the next big young player that somebody will sign. And then he's had a couple of good seasons at Leipzig as well, and then we purchased him for a fee that's less than Ekitike. What I don't understand is how is he by far and above the worst transfer when Liverpool paid more money for Ekitike? It clearly seems like a United bias when I see something like this because Liverpool paid more money for Ekitike than we paid for Sheshko, and he was their third most expensive transfer of this window. They went for two other players that were over $150 million. So I fail to understand how this is anything but a United bias.
Andy, allow me to bring in the edge of footy with an edge. Sheshko at at Leipzig, has played 5,315 minutes. He has scored 39 goals and has 8 assists, and he has a goal contribution every 113 minutes. Ekitike, on the other hand, has played 4,416 minutes. He has 26 goals and 14 assists, right? So he has 7 goal contributions less, and those goal contributions are coming in 110 minutes. So they're practically the same player, right? But I'll give you a kicker. Sesko's played 16 games in the Champions League, but Ekitike, most of his appearances, in fact, all his appearances for Frankfurt have come in the Europa League. So if you're looking at a pedigree of player, who would you choose, right? Like even as a pedigree player, you give more weightage to the guy who's played in the better competition. And
Yeah.
let's not forget, Sheshko's even a year younger than Ekitike. So you could say that because he's just had that one good big season with Frankfurt, right? Sheshko's been better at that age if you're comparing them neck and neck.
Unfortunately, that's not how people are looking at it, right? I feel like there's a little bit of maybe French bias coming into it as well because Ekitike is a French international, whereas Sheshko is Slovenian international. I feel like that makes a little bit of a difference, but I still feel James Trafford, guys, was purchased by Man City, a former player that played through their academy, purchased by him and replaced within the same window, right? How is he not even close to Benjamin Sheshko and being as bad? Because the voting happened definitely after Trafford was replaced by Donnarumma, right? So dude, I just deeped this as well. They voted Donnarumma as the best transfer, and they didn't vote James Trafford as the worst transfer. How is that possible? How is the best transfer that replaced one of the worst transfers here not the actual worst transfer? Somebody
Yeah,
explain that to me.
you're talking about two sides of the same coin, right? But you're treating them as two different coins. Like that makes no sense. So
Exactly.
basically, the article says that Donnarumma is the best signing because of A, his credentials, and B, his low transfer fee. So let me just deep this, okay? If you're talking about credentials, why didn't his credentials earn him a new contract at PSG, the team where he won the treble last season, right? And if you're talking about his low transfer fee, well, they cite it as 27 million pounds, 30, 35 million euros maybe. Uh, but this is nowhere close to his real fee, right? Because we all know how City pay their fees. City is notorious for it. Hello, 115 charges, right?
Yeah.
So there's obviously exorbitant agent fees, signing on fees. They must have paid him like 15 to 20 million pounds as signing on fees, at least 10 million pounds in agent fees. Remember, this is the same agency that Raiola had founded. So it's the same culture, right? Extract the most amount of money for our talented players. So if they've paid 30 million in fees to PSG, you can be rest assured that they've at least paid just as much in agent and signing on fees. Also, Romano had reported that the reason that Donnarumma didn't come to United was because he was asking for a very high salary. He was looking at 300,000
Also,
pounds.
I heard that was the same reason that PSG wanted to let him go. That was the biggest sticking point, that he was asking for
Yeah,
way too much money.
yeah.
And listen, if you're a goalkeeper that's been touted as the next Buffon and joined the Milan team when he was 16, am I one to sit here in my chair and say he's too big for his own shoes? Probably not, right? And he's just coming off a great season for PSG, winning the treble. So I can understand why players like these ask for too much money. But the point is, do we want United to be stuck with somebody who thinks he's bigger than the club, right? And that is something that we wanted to avoid. So we didn't go for him. And
Yeah.
City went for him. And regardless of what the actual price they paid to PSG is, you can be you can bet your bottom dollar that they paid him a huge signing on fee, and he's on big wages there. And 2 seasons from now, Courtois leaves Real Madrid. Like, who's to say he doesn't itch for a move out of City as well, right? By throwing his toys out the pram. So I don't know how you can say that's the best transfer. Rishi, I want to quickly tell the viewers what we actually consider a good transfer or a bad transfer, right? And for me, it's a pretty simple concept. I feel like a really good transfer is one that is really good value for money, and a bad transfer is really bad value for money, right? So you could look at Mbappe to PSG. They paid 165 million for him, I think. I would still consider that a good transfer because he actually did very well for them when he was at PSG. He won the World Cup. That really helps PSG with the eyeballs that they get on their team, right? And in terms of the enterprise value that he added to PSG as a brand, he did a lot for them, right? So even though he was an expensive transfer, I feel like that was a good value for money transfer. Compare that to all the other 100 million transfers like Coutinho to Barcelona, Ousmane Dembele even to Barcelona, João Felix from Benfica, I believe it was, to Atletico Madrid. That was also a really bad value for money transfer. And in my opinion, if we're looking at the good transfers, Jack Grealish is a really good shout, right? Because he went from Man City to Everton. It was a loan, but he's doing wonders from them, right? For them, he's playing more of that maverick role that he played at Aston Villa, and kind of rose to fame under that type of role. And I think that's a really good shot. How Alexander Isak can be listed as one of the best transfers here, I really don't understand, because you look at the track record of 100 million plus players. I get it. He's one of the top three strikers in the world. But the way he did it, he's so out of shape. He started out the season, not in the best way because he was protesting against Newcastle. I don't really know how that can happen. I feel like Joao Pedro is a good shout. Eberechi Eze, I can get behind that one as well. Zubimendi, Brian Mbumo. These are ones that I can get behind. But Isak is just way too much money because listen, he does his ACL, knee injury, anything like that. I feel like it's too big a risk to put all your money into one pot and buy that player, especially in a transfer window where you've also spent that kind of money on Wirtz and you've also spent that kind of money on Ekatike.
It absolutely makes no sense to me because it's like people are using one kind of logic when it comes to United players and signings, and they're using a completely different benchmark when it comes to other signings, right? I get that fans are salty. I get that pundits, ex-players are salty because United and Sir Alex ruined a lot of these careers and childhoods, right? I don't understand why agents are salty. I mean, what the hell is going on there? Right? And it's almost like these agents all got together and decided that, oh, we have to worship at the altar of City and Liverpool. There absolutely has to be a hidden agenda here, right? Because they know that Liverpool are undergoing a huge rebuild. They've invested close to 500 million pounds this season. That means there's a lot of agent fees to go around. You have to remember that Wirtz almost went to Bayern, right? He went to Bayern
Mhm.
Munich. The reason he went to Liverpool is because Liverpool bid a little bit more money and they promised a little bit more to the agents. Because there was a 110 million euro, 110 million euro a pound bid that was put in by Bayern, but they said that anything beyond that was insanity. So you have to understand that if a young, talented German superstar decides to not go to Bayern Munich, there's something seriously wrong because that's exactly what happens every single time, right? So it's obvious there's a lot of money. And if you follow Swedish Rumble, he's a brilliant football business analyst on Twitter. Swedish Rumble has said that Wirtz, the salary quoted is 200,000 pounds in the in the news, but it's more likely that he's earning somewhere close to 400,000 pounds. And
Mhm.
if you're a
Is
agent
is that
worth
with
your
all
salt,
the is that with
with
like goal and
with
assist bonuses and all
with
that?
yeah,
Yeah.
with bonuses and everything, and it's
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's not like 200,000 in base salary and 200,000 in bonus. It's got to be closer to 300,000 in base salary and 100,000 in bonus because that's how bonuses are structured. So
Yeah.
you're looking at an insane amount of money, and agents definitely know what the true value of a deal is. So they should be considering all of that, and then they should come to a conclusion that obviously, like the shouts for Cesco are, I still can't make sense of it because agents are above petty tribalism and club politics and stuff like that. They are right up there when it comes to being cutthroat about business. They only care about the money. If Ed Woodward was still in business, they would have been, they would have been hounding him and
Oh,
trying to get a
Sheshko
great deal for him.
Sheshko would have
Yeah,
been voted the best transfer because you
yeah,
bet your bottom
absolutely,
dollar we would have paid high agents fees.
absolutely.
And by the way, I know let's say a friend of a friend who owns like a fourth division football club in Spain. And I spoke to him about the economics of what it's like to own a club, and obviously his dad owns the club, and he was talking about the worst, by far the worst aspect of owning a football club is dealing with agents, right? Because they're the scummiest, most snake oil salesman people you can find in the business. And it makes it very difficult because these small clubs, right? Their turnover is like on a bad year, maybe 1 million, 1.5 million. And on a good year, if they make it deep into a cup run or play against some of the bigger teams, they might make like 4 or 5 million. And so they often don't even have enough money to pay the salaries of the players that they're hiring. And sometimes the agents will come in and ask for 1, 2, 3x of their salary as the signing on fee or agent's fee or something like that. And they make it very difficult. Like they'll blacklist a club from getting players if they're not happy with certain fees that they're making. And you can just imagine how much worse this gets the higher and higher you go, right? Because when you're looking at a player like Wirtz, and Bayern Munich and Liverpool are both interested, and I'm sure teams like Real Madrid, Barcelona have at least talked about it, right? Like they've thrown their hand in the ring to say, okay, how much is he, and stuff like that. When you have these two big clubs going up against each other, it's so much about ego and and the director of football is involved and everything like that. So the agents kind of have you by the cojones and can do whatever they want. So these are the scummy people that have given these rankings, and you best bet that the rankings are not the true honest rankings, right? There's definitely some agenda, some bias that's behind it. And maybe it's as simple as, since Ineos have come in, they've stopped paying the large agent fees and they've stopped negotiating on the terms that the agents want. And so they're just unhappy with it. And that's why, Mbumo, who is like the most Premier League proven player we could get, got one vote as the best transfer of this window. Whereas Šeško, who was, let's say, one of the most promising strikers in the top 5 leagues, got 6 votes as the worst transfer. Like, explain this to me as anything other than bias, right? And this is a great tweet. I don't know if Rishi, you had sent this to me or I sent this to you, but I think this is
Yeah,
worth
I
talking about
think
it as well.
yeah, I think we both saw this, and
Yeah.
Ryan Haber makes brilliant points. I mean, you can just read Trafford. He was brought as a starter, then he gets replaced by Donnarumma. Wissa comes in for 50 million. They started bidding for him from 25 million, and they ended up paying twice as much. And on deadline day,
And
he
he's like
comes in.
28, I believe, right?
He's 29. He was born in 96, if I'm not wrong. So he's 29 pretty soon, if he's not 29 already. And also, he was in the last year of his contract, and they paid 50 million for him, and he tore his ACL, and he's not going to play anymore this season.
Yeah.
Right.
And guys, let me give you guys, for the United fans that are watching, which I assume is most of you guys, this is what we did with Mason Mount, right? We bought Mason Mount in the last year of his contract for 55 million. And then he got injured for 3 seasons after that, right? He was still 23 at the time. He's 26 now. This guy is 28, 29, who's just had an ACL injury after them paying maybe even 3x his value, right? Because last year of his contract again. And he forced his move out of Brentford to get to Newcastle, and this is what's happened to them. And coming back, I think one transfer that isn't listed here by Ryan is freaking Nick Voltemada. Like, his transfer marked value, guys, before he moved to Newcastle was 35 million euros, and they paid something like 95 million euros, like all in, for this guy on deadline day after Isak left. So how is that not a consideration for one of the worst transfers that's out there? I don't even think it was listed as the top 10 here. If I go back to the article here.
The 22-23 season, this kid was playing in the 3rd Bundesliga, like the 3rd tier of Germany.
Yeah.
Right. And out of nowhere, and the 23-24 season, he played for Bremen, scored 2 goals in 30 games. The 24-25 season, he has 12 Bundesliga goals. 12. That's still a couple less than Šeško, if I remember correctly. Right. And he cost just as much. And he wasn't even a planned purchase. They panic bought him. Right. And he's doing decently. He's got techers, right? He moves quickly for a big man. There's a lot to like about him. He's always smiling.
Yeah, and he's good
German,
at headers, and you also know that Eddie Howe is gonna get the best out of him, right? Because they're gonna put in a lot of crosses. They have players that work hard behind him, and a really strong midfield, right? Something that United doesn't have. So I have nothing against the player. I don't have anything against any of these players, including Donnarumma. Like, best of luck to him, right? 26 years old, making his money. Like, why would I hate against that? But the point is that the agents have no clue what they're talking about, or they do, and this is on purpose. This is based on bias. And the United bias is absolutely insane, right? That is the main point of this video, is that the bias is there for everybody to see. And I actually can't believe how people keep getting away with this. I feel like the ex-players have realized that they make their money by shitting on United. And even when there's a tap-in, right, the easiest thing that you could defend United on, I haven't seen anybody come out against it and say anything, right? I haven't seen Paul Scholes say this is ridiculous. I haven't seen Gary Neville. I haven't even seen our biggest hater in Jamie Carragher come out and say this is ridiculous, because this is absolutely ridiculous. how you can have Šeško be one of the worst transfers. And listen, I'm going to die on this hill. Even if Šeško hadn't scored his 2 goals, he would not have been the worst transfer, because we have to realize that we're in a team and in a period where things are difficult for us to actually progress forward the way we want to, right? So it's very difficult for a player to come into this team and hit the ground running. But guess what? Šeško has been able to do that when we have no service. In the game where in one of his recent games, he had 6 shots. I think it was the Brentford game. He had 6 shots, and all 6 of them happened in the first 31 minutes. He played 90 minutes that game, and for the next 60 minutes did not have a single shot. So how you can, take a dump on this kid is beyond me, right? And by the way, I'm just going to be completely honest here. I know there's a lot of talk about Ruben Amorim being the worst coach, that we've ever seen in Man United history. But I believe that this guy can turn it around. And if and when he does, you'll see Šeško will be banging them goals in, because you best believe that Šeško is a better version of Victor Gyökeres, right? If he can make Gyökeres score almost 60 goals in a year, gets United to start firing, just imagine how many goals Šeško will score. Rishi,
No, someone needs to explain to me how Šeško was on the radar of Arsenal, where people have been up Andre Berta's ass the entire summer, and rightly so. He's done a brilliant job as a sporting director. I wish he was our sporting director. He's done a great job, and for most of the summer, he was pretty keen on Šeško, right? And he pivoted towards Gyökeres at the last moment because he found the price to be better or whatever. In his wisdom, he felt that
from what I
Gyökeres
thought,
was a better fit.
Rishi, I thought it was actually Arteta who was keen on Šeško, but Berta was always keen on Gyökeres. Is that not what it was?
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what it was.
But either way, like, Arteta is one of the best coaches
Yeah,
in the league. That is undoubted. He's my favorite
right.
for winning the league this season. And if he, like, let me just put it this way: if Šeško had gone to Arsenal, he would not be listed as the worst transfer of the window.
No, he'll probably be on the list in the best transfers, because he would probably be performing better too, because Arsenal is a more settled squad that's creating more chances for its forwards.
But guess what? Gyökeres has 1 more goal only than Šeško, and he has already played Leeds where they smacked him like 5-0 or something, right? Where Max
And
Diamond
they
dove in the first
basically
game.
they spread his hands and said, "Please, sir, may I have some more?" And they gifted him that penalty in the end.
I just can't get over the fact that United always get this level of hatred. I understood it when we were good. I understood it when we were recently good. So when we weren't good anymore, post Sir Alex, but the memories were still fresh. Guys, it's been 13 years since we've been good, right? Just give it a break. Like, trust me, I wish this team was good. I wish this club was doing better, but unfortunately we are not, and the hatred needs to stop, right? And listen, I'm not sitting here saying, whatever agents say is kind of gospel, and I believe everything they say, or I put any value towards what they say, because they're just trying to make the most money for their players and for themselves. But my overall point is that we need to stop this, right? And the next United player that comes in, right, people are going to start saying Diego Leon is the worst transfer we've ever done, right? Like, where does it stop? And I feel like it really needs to stop.
Andy, you gotta point some fingers at the Athletic, because I get that they do this every year, right? They do this because it's an interesting angle at the transfer window. Fans are interested. But you can't deny that the last few weeks, or the last few months rather, they've been banging the anti-United agenda on and on. Like, the coverage used to be unbiased. People used to pay. I used to be a subscriber at one point of time, and I used to, subscribe to The Athletic because of its insight, because of the in-depth analysis of games. I love Carl Anka. I am a huge fan of Andy Mitten. So these are the guys that actually, enhance your understanding of the game of football. And these guys rose up because of these things, because they were adding value, right? They weren't doing what the Daily Mail or the Sun or the Daily Mirror or any of these, you know,
Yeah.
uh,
And by the way, just
kind
to
of
add,
newspapers
one
do.
of my one of my favorite podcasts right now is the Talk of the Devils podcast. And I know for a fact
Yeah,
from my own analytics from YouTube that a lot of you guys watch that podcast as well and then come watch some of my videos. So um, I agree with Rishi overall that the editor, I guess, at Athletic has to take a lot of blame because these
yeah,
individual journalists, they haven't written this article, they haven't participated in this survey, they're not agents, right? So I'm not saying Carl Anka, how dare you put this article out, because it's not his fault, right? And I don't think Rishi's saying that either. But the point is that we are in a situation where the Athletic is losing its credibility by putting something like this out, because even though they didn't write it themselves and it's the agents that are saying this, they had to have known that this was going to be an explosive article that gets clicks and
yeah.
that gets talked about from left to right, and it's getting retweeted. All the social media channels are talking about it. So they definitely knew what they're doing when they put this out.
And it's not just this one article, by the way. I'm pointing a finger at the Athletic for a series of articles over the last 6 months, maybe, ever since Amarim's come in. There is no sense of positive coverage. It's always, looking at the worst in a quote, or maybe just finding an angle that makes everything look bad. And trust me, we've been crap for a long time. You don't have to go hunting for an angle.
Yeah.
But just the fact that you have so much energy for United, whereas it's missing for, say, Wirtz. I remember there was a 007 article defending Wirtz. Players like Wirtz are unfairly being targeted with this 007 moniker. But is it really fair to judge someone so early? And maybe 2 or 3 days later, you put out an article where agents are calling Sheshko the worst signing of the season. And what are the agents even going off? Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. And they basically compared Wirtz to Thierry Henry. I mean, what
Yeah.
the hell, man? I mean, I'll tell you what. I'm a hardcore United fan. I love Ruud van Nistelrooy. I became a United fan because of Ruud van Nistelrooy. But even I think that Thierry Henry was the better footballer. And I think that Thierry Henry is the best player to have ever played in this league. How
Yeah.
do you compare Florian Wirtz to Thierry Henry? If you're saying it's
Yeah.
an unfair way to judge new players by calling them 007, isn't it unfair to Thierry freaking Henry to compare him to a 115 million pound flop?
Yeah.
I mean,
It
make
makes
it
no
make
sense,
sense.
dude. This is where the bias comes through, right? Because you're literally. By the way, Wirtz isn't better than this old version of Henry that came back injured from Barcelona and played for Arsenal, right? So forget
No,
about
no,
comparing
hold
him
on,
to the
hold on, hold
young.
on.
Yeah,
Hold on, Andy. He came back from New York Red Bulls, and then he
Hmm.
still scored for Arsenal at
Yeah,
35.
yeah. So this guy, cannot clean his boots, and if Wirtz has 50% of the career that Thierry Henry has, they might be calling him the best German player that's played in the Premier League.
I'll salute the heck out of him. If he has half the
Yeah,
career as Henry, I'll salute the heck out of him. I'll tell you
exactly.
what, for the viewers, if you guys can go and check out Saturday Social, one of the recent episodes where Lawrence McKenna was on. I like Lawrence McKenna a lot. He does a lot of good work on his channel and he covers United in a very fair and unbiased manner. I followed him for the last 5 years when he was on True Geordie's show, and he had none of this love or affection or sort of common sense when it came to United. But now he's realized what the algorithm favors, right? So he's kind of started looking at the positives in the United project. He's
Dude,
looking at the
these guys
story.
have compared Wirtz to Ian Rush in this article. Ian Rush is one of
Wow.
they've looked at players that have gone first 7 games without a goal or an assist, and what their goal and assist tallies were towards the end of their career. And one of the
Yeah.
players here is Ian Rush, dude. Like, come on, what are you guys
Hey, to
smoking?
be
Even
to be to
yeah.
be fair, they've also included Bobby de Cordova Reed in there. So
Yeah, and there's also Alan
they,
St. Maximin, but
yeah,
the why are you including all the great players that are here, right? Including even Sterling, dude. Like, Sterling has had really good portions of his career. He's won so many Premier Leagues. And Wirtz hasn't warranted any of that to have this sort of defense come
yeah.
for him.
No, no,
Um,
even Lawrence McKenna was struggling to defend him on Saturday Social. He it took him a minute, and he's very quick on his feet when it comes to talking about Liverpool. But even he struggled, and he said that he struggled to probably come to terms with the physicality of the league. So, I mean, yeah, play the world's smallest violin, right? World's
Yeah,
smallest
exactly.
115 million pound violin.
Yeah. Anyways, Rishi, we've talked about this. It's clear the United bias is terrible and hard to take, honestly, as a United fan. But let's move on to our final segment of the show, which is the underrated team of the week. We're going to try to do this every single week when we do this podcast. Obviously, it's the international break, which doesn't give us the Premier League players to look at, but it is an interesting, time to consider some players that maybe you guys haven't heard of that play in different leagues. And our kind of thought process is, these players are really good and potentially could be good at United as well, but they're definitely underrated right now. So let's start with the goalkeeper that we have in mind. And do you want to kick us off, Rishi?
Yeah, sure. So, the goalkeeper we have for you today is Muric from Kosovo. Uh, 6'6", 26 years old, huge, covers the entire goal. Very old school goalie, right? Keeps it simple. He's not a play out of the back kind of a goalie. I like a goalie who keeps it simple. In the last 365 days, he ranks in the top 99th percentile for saves made and for crosses stopped. Those are the two things which, as United fans, we've been starved of. A goalie who can save the ball, who can save a goal, and a goalie who can come out and claim a cross.
Cool, Rishi. Great shout. I'll go with the left back next. And this is David Raum. He plays for Leipzig. He's 27 years old. He had an assist for Voltemata versus Northern Ireland in the recent 1-0 win against Northern Ireland for Germany. Created 2 chances in that game and had 7 defensive contributions. He also had a goal against Luxembourg. In that game, he created 5 chances. And very surprising to me, this guy's a player that's been in the limelight for a decent amount of time. He's been playing for Germany for a long time. He's only valued at 20 million euros by Transfermarkt, and his contract expires in the summer of 2027. So if United wanted to go get experienced left wing back to play ahead of Dorgu, this is a great shout for me, right? I think he could be got for, let's say, 30 million euros, including add-ons. And I think that would be a great price. We could have him for 4 to 5 seasons, which is his last big contract. And I'm sure we could improve a little bit on his wages that he's getting from Leipzig as well. So I think this is, an exciting player, and we should definitely look at him maybe even in the January window. Rishi,
Absolutely.
your thoughts on the left and right center back? Let's do both the center backs. Go for it.
Yeah, so my shouts for the two center backs are Robin Lenormand from Spain. He plays for Atletico Madrid. And the second one is John Lucumi. He's from Colombia and he plays for Bologna. So Robin Lenormand, I've been a fan of his for quite some time now. In this particular match, Spain were playing Georgia, and this guy got like a 97% pass success rate. He played 113 passes, attempted 113 passes, and made 110. He won 6 out of 7 duels, and just a very classy operator, right? Keeps things simple, can play a good pass, has a good long pass on him. Uh, but
I'm surprised
unfortunately,
he hasn't gone to Barcelona or like PSG or something like that, right? I think he
yeah,
seems
but
like a player that would have done that.
Atleti went in very early for him. They signed him before the Euros. And unfortunately, guys, he's been lost to the dark side now. You know, he's he's playing for Atleti, so he's boxed in that 4-4-2. He's gonna clear all his headers and he's gonna play the simple pass, probably back to his goalie, who's gonna lump it forward.
Yeah. And who's your right center back? You said John Lukumi.
Yes, so John Lukumi, according to me, a very underrated shout. He's not too old. I guess he's like 27 right now. Plays for Bologna, Colombian international. Brilliant numbers on the ball. He can pass, he can carry the ball. He frequently gets into the opposition box. Very good at attacking headers.
And he's
So
only
really,
27. He's only
yeah, he's
27.
only, and I think he's nearing the end of his contract, or maybe has like another year after this one.
His contract
So
expires in summer 2027, so he's a good shout as well. And according to
yeah,
Transfermarkt, his net worth is 25 million euros right now. So we could get him for maybe 30, 35 million, and that's a very good price for a good
yeah.
center back today. Cool. So moving on to the right back or right wing back, my shout is Malo Gusto. I've been talking about this guy for like 10 live shows now. I keep thinking that this is the right player for Amorim's system. Very, very good attacking fullback. Obviously, we've seen him in Chelsea. It's not like a name that you don't know. And it's definitely going to be difficult to get him out of there. But he played against Azerbaijan for France, 92% pass accuracy, 86 touches, 3 touches in the opposition's box, 2 successful dribbles with 100% conversion rate, 4 passes into the final third. And he's a complete modern fullback, right? I think his value by Transfermarkt is 35 million. I think Chelsea paid 25 million for him.
No,
I feel
more,
like
more. It was more. It was closer to the 30-35 mark. That's what it was quoted
let
when.
me
Just for the uninitiated, we were also in for him. United was also in for Malo Gusto when he was 19 or 20 years old. But Chelsea paid the young player premium. I
yeah.
believe he was
Yeah,
bought
I think they
for
paid
close
30
to,
million. They paid 30
yeah,
million euros, and so I think we can probably try to bid 50 plus add-ons to try to get him. I don't know how flexible Chelsea are going to be, but it is a net profit for them. Maybe that's how they look at it. Let's see.
yeah.
I'll just do the next center mid as well, Rishi, and then I'll throw it back to you. Next shout for the first central midfielder is Alexander Pavlovic from Bayern. He's a German midfielder, 21 years old, highly touted across Europe. And is he going to be cheap if we go in for him from Bayern? Definitely not. But the point is, we're talking about exciting players who can fit into a high possession team in the future because they're very good passers. And this guy, he had an 8.5 out of 10 against Luxembourg, 134 passes with a 94% pass accuracy. Sorry, 134 completed passes with a 94% pass accuracy, 161 touches, 3 chances created, 12 passes into the final third. Also had a good game against Northern Ireland with 95% pass accuracy, 71 touches, 2 chances created, 5 passes into the final third. I think he'll be a great player, but I don't think we're getting him for anything less than 80 million.
No
And
chance.
then
No
add-ons on
chance.
top. So it's
Yeah.
just a great player that I wanted to talk about. Rishi, your next shot.
I like Ruben Neves. Even when he was at Wolves, and there were links to Ruben Neves, but the price was always something insane, exorbitant, like 60 million or 80 million pounds. Now that he's at Saudi, he's still pulling the strings for Portugal, right? He bailed Ronaldo out at the last minute. He scored a goal for Portugal in the 93rd minute, if I'm not wrong, right? That was the winning goal in a 1-0 victory. 93 passes, 3 chances created, 114 touches, 15 passes into the final third, right? 7 defensive contributions. Now that's an all action, all round midfielder if I ever saw one. And come the January transfer window, he has 6 months remaining on his Al Hilal deal. He's just 28 years old. I think that we could definitely go for him. Like,
Yeah, and
absolutely,
he's a player
6 month.
never relied on pace, right? He's never
Yeah,
relied on his legs, and also a great shooter from the edge of the box.
yeah,
So I feel like he's someone that can actually play decently well even when he's 32, 33. And
yeah,
he doesn't really have a big problem. So I'm not saying we get this guy and he solves our midfield problems. But we
yeah,
could maybe sign him on loan or give him a short-term contract, sign him on for 3 years or 4 years plus one. And that could be a very good deal because he's not going to cost a lot
yeah.
either, coming from Saudi. The next player is Victor Froholt. He's a 19-year-old Danish player that's just moved from Copenhagen to Porto this summer for 22 million euros, which is the most expensive sale in Copenhagen's history. This guy at 19 years old was bossing the midfield for Denmark. Denmark had 2 great games. Obviously, they won 3-1 against Greece, which is a pretty good team, and then 6-0 against Belarus, which is not a great team, but still they did well. This guy had 2 assists and a goal across those 2 games. Created 2 chances versus Greece, 5 passes into the final third. Assisted the second Højlund goal against Belarus. Created 2 chances in that game as well. 40 touches with 4 of them in the opposition's box. one dribble, 4 passes into the final third. And he did all of that against Belarus just in the first half because they were 4-0 up. I think
Wow.
he took him off. He took him off at the end of the first half and brought Ericsson on, I think, for the second half.
Next 80
Yeah.
million player for sure.
One,
Chelsea's in
one to
for him. I
watch.
can already see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Chelsea's in for his younger brother, I believe, who's like 15 playing somewhere else. But he's too old for Chelsea now. Rishi, we have a hidden shout for a central midfielder. Do you want to give it to us?
Yeah, but you know who's I do want to give it to you, but you know who's giving a big one to United, or all the detractors who said he wasn't good enough for United? It's Scotty to Hottie, Scott McSauce, McTominay, the GOAT of Serie A.
Yeah.
7.9 rating versus Belarus, 1 goal, 59 touches on the ball. He got half of those against any team that United was playing. And suddenly he moves to another team and he becomes like prime Beckenbauer. You know, I never rated McTominay while he was here, mostly because he was played out of position. McTominay is a great progressor of the ball, but he's not that great defensively. Even the highlights that we pulled out here, they're all attacking and possession numbers, right?
He's more of the mold of a Frank Lampard, I guess, who's like more attacking, getting onto the end of something at the edge of the box. So he would have done well in a cam position, and that's where he plays for Napoli as well. But guys, he's not better than Bruno. We saw him play. The loose touches, the lack of composure on the ball. So it was never going to work out at United. So I'm just happy for him.
Yeah,
Right? Why can't we
Andy,
just be happy for
that's the other thing. That's the other thing I want to point out. You guys can't gaslight us about players who leave United because it's not us. We actually saw these players play, right? And they were pathetic. And even McTominay, when he was still at United, when he was playing for Scotland, he wasn't pulling up any trees. He was being played at centre back by his manager, right? So it's not like suddenly these players become brilliant. They just go to an inferior league and that's why they're brilliant. And no hate to McTominay. I'm very happy that he's doing well. He's a United lad, respected us, went and got us a good price that allowed us to do other business in the window. So yeah, fair play to him.
And he didn't kick us on the way out of the door, right? So big respect to him. Speaking of ex-players that are doing well, let's move on to our next shout for a striker, who is Rasmus Højlund. Again, I feel like a lot of the same stuff that we just said about McTominay applies to him because he's also gone to Serie A. He's also gone to Napoli, and he's doing really well this season, right? He scored a lot of goals in the league. And on this break, he scored 2 goals and had 1 assist against Belarus. So man of the match performance. He had 5 shots, converted 2 of them. He actually also missed 1 big chance. So he could have easily had a hat trick. He had 8 touches in the opposition box from the 30 total that he had. He also got 1 goal versus Greece, completed all 8 of his passes, but he was dispossessed 3 times, right? So again, this is a player that, definitely tried his best. I feel like United put him in a losing situation by purchasing him for a big price as early as we did, because I think we should have made that purchase and maybe sent him out on loan or left him at Atlanta. But we were in a position where every signing that we were making was the solution, right? Every signing was coming into the team trying to fix the team. And I feel like we were just in a lose-lose situation with him where there was too much put on his shoulders and the pressure was way too much, right? In the Serie A game where he scored 2 goals that De Bruyne assisted him, I think half the stadium was empty, right? And when he comes and plays for United, we have 75,000 people watching every single week. So there's levels here, guys, right? For the worse we get in terms of how we perform in the league, the more pressure there is from all of the aspects of United, the fans, the ex-players, the media, the other, Carragher and all those idiots. They're putting more and more pressure. So everybody wants us to fail. And obviously, the easiest thing to do in that situation is fail. And that's what's happened with Højlund. I feel like the same with McTominay as well, but good luck to him. And maybe he can even come back and play for us with the confidence that he's earned, right? He could compete with Šeško for his spot, and that could be good for us. Cool. Rishi, give us the left winger and right winger quickly, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so the left winger shout for me is Antonio Nusa from Norway. He plays at Leipzig. Very young kid, 20 years old. So Norway played Israel and they destroyed them 5-0. I think Haaland got a brace. and this kid had
He
two
got a hat trick.
assists.
He had
He got a
a
hat
hat
trick.
trick,
Oh,
and he missed a penalty as well.
yeah. So Antonio Nusa had two assists versus Israel. He completed 6 out of 6 dribbles. He had 3 out of 6 accurate crosses. He created 3 chances, and the impressive thing is he in he's in the high 90 percentiles for progressive carries, for take-ons, and for dribbles. So he's a fast all-action winger, and I think in the Ruben Amorim system, this kid can easily play wing back because, as we all know, Amorim's wing backs are basically wingers, right? And this kid has also played left mid. So I think wing back is not too far removed from that. So
Yeah.
Nusa is a good shout for any of you guys who are looking at like Football Manager or you're looking at your career mode. Nusa is a brilliant player, and I would love him at United. Similarly, if I can move on to my next shout for right winger, that would be this little known Chilean player called Fabian Hormazabal. So this guy plays in Chile. He's played in Chile his entire life. Fun fact, the first big club that he played for in Chile, and in fact the academy that he belongs to, is a club called O'Higgins. Imagine a club called O'Higgins in South America, right? It's almost like
Mhm.
two guys called McAllister and O'Higgins left from the British Isles, and one landed in Argentina, the other one landed in Chile. Uh, so yeah, Fabian Hormazabal, he can play fullback or wing back. He played fullback in the last game for Chile. So the interesting aspect about him is he ranks in the 94th percentile for blocks, 80th percentile for interceptions, and 93rd percentile for shot creating actions. So this guy is a wing back or a fullback who can do everything. He can create and he can also defend. In the last game, he created 3 chances and he had 6 defensive actions from right back. And he's 29 years old, so he's getting on there. But he's absolutely the kind of player that a manager like Eddie Howe or Iraola would love. Someone who is quiet, does his job, puts the numbers out there, and gives you like a 7 on 10 performance every season. I'm very surprised
He
that this kid
reminds
did not.
me. Yeah, he reminds me of Marcus Acuna, the Argentinian fullback that plays for Atleti, right? And
Yeah,
he's kind of the left-footed player that can do everything, right? Bombing up and down,
right.
and can do a little bit of everything. And I looked at his value on Transfermarkt; it was like 2.8 million euros, I think.
Yeah,
So I think basically 5 million euros is like a sure shot for us to get him, and he would also love to
yeah,
join us if we wanted him as a
yeah.
wing back option,
We
like the
spent
more
more on
advanced
Diego
one.
Leon. So
Yeah,
this is like a free hit.
yeah, exactly. Anyways, great shouts, Rishi. I'll put up the whole team on screen now for you guys to take a look at it. But I think it's super interesting to look at some of the underrated players. Thank you guys for watching. Right, this was our very first show, and for those of you guys that have made it till the end, it is Rishi's birthday today. And I should have probably announced it at the beginning, so maybe I'll put it in the notes or something. But very, very happy birthday to Rishi. I'm not gonna disclose his age because let's be nice to him on his birthday. Maybe I'll tell you guys in the next video. But very happy birthday, Rishi, and I hope you enjoyed this. Hope this was a nice present from myself and the channel to you. And welcome to the community. And I'm sure everyone's excited to have you here, and we're looking forward to hearing more from you.
Thanks, Andy. It was a great first show. In fact, like you said, probably not the first show that we've done. We've done many before this, but they got like 30 or 40 views. And then suddenly one day in December 2022, you picked up the mantle and decided to create content the way you love to watch. And that's brought Footy with an Edge to 30 plus 33, almost 32,000 subscribers. So very happy to be on here and, great to share my thoughts on the team that we all love and interesting aspects of world football. And we hope that people enjoy this enough to be able to keep doing this every week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to Rishi for joining, and thanks to you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next week. Peace out.
Thank you. Have a good one.